Hey, it's Mazzy, and It's the Music, stupid number 8. That's where I show about 5 albums and talk about the music, not about the pressings, not about the mastering, but about the music. Start with A's now. I want to show this record, the Asylum Choir's first album. Look inside the Asylum Choir. Look inside. Smash Records. Mercury. Smash Records. Got a little strife for this. This was a day, a time. This was a day and a time, and a day and a time, and a time and a day, when rolling out the toilet paper roll wasn't a big deal. 1968. Remember, this came out same time. Beggar's Banquet was about to come out without the toilet cover. So this was the original cover. This was the compromise. Now, it's a collaboration of 2 studio musicians, Leon Russell from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Mark Benno. And they had worked on a lot of LA sessions. Of course, Leon Russell would be part of the Wrecking Crew, playing piano on so many amazing pop records. We know later he got involved with Joe Cocker and George Harrison and Contra for Bangladesh, and had a series of his own records on Shelter that were huge hits. He comes out of the Tulsa scene, where he played with artists like J.J. Cale and David Ackles, one of the guys who would later be in Bread as well. Great musician, great vocalist, got soulful Oklahomian sound, and this is a fantastic record. Now, in a way, this is just a great cover. I mean, the psychedelia on this is wonderful. So, okay, picture this, 1968. This record is kind of what you'd expect of pop, psychedelic pop with a Baroque edge. You can really hear them emulating, the 1967 Beatles, and even some Frank Zappa thrown in. There's a lot of songs and pieces of music that are cut together and different tempos and different Baroque type styles. A lot of brass, a lot of horns, sped up, slowed down. The 2 artists are multi-tracking their vocals and their instrumentation and pretty much playing everything on these records. And it's like a circus. It's like just it feels really good, and it's definitely a record of its time, but it's got some soul to it. But again, it's got this psychedelic Baroque pop from 1967, 68, and pick one of these records up if you see it. It sounds good too. It's really well recorded. It's a session, 2 session musicians really having a good time playing around. Connected to that, I'm throwing this in here because I think a lot of people skipped this album and didn't know it. And this came out, I think, in 1969. And this is Mark Benno's solo album on A&M Records called Minnows. And this is a gorgeous record. The song that got a lot of airplay was Speak Your Mind, and it just floats. It's a floater. I probably shouldn't use that terminology, since I started out showing an album with toilet paper on the cover at the beginning of this record. But we got some seafood here. We got a little minnow action going on. But this is a wonderful record, and on this are artists like Bobby Womack, Jesse Ed Davis, Clarence White, great guitar player, of course, Mark Benno, piano, vocals, organ, guitar, Jim Keltner, Rita Coolidge, Clyde King, Barry Feinstein, photography, who would do All Things Must Pass. This whole clique of artists I've talked about the whole white gospel scene of 1968, 69, 70, 71 with George Harrison and Delaney and Bonnie and Leon Russell and Mark Benno, and even the Rolling Stones got in the action of that. Very soulful kind of stuff going on there. Really a great time in music, and this is a wonderful record on A&M Records. And I've always been a big fan of these A&M green goldish label records. They usually sound really, really good, and Minnows is a fantastic record. Continuing on, I've been all in lately on the Byrds. I've always been a fan of the Byrds, one of my favorite bands, and this is an album that really emulates that psychedelic sound of the Byrds, mixing sort of country, cowboy, psychedelic cowboy music. And this is Marty Stuart and his fabulous Superlatives Way Out West. I regret in 2018 I didn't see the 50th anniversary tour of Sweetheart of the Rodeo with Chris Hillman, Roger McGuinn, and Marty Stuart and his band. Now, he I think at 15 or 14 years old, was hired by Earl Scruggs and played with the Earl Scruggs band. What a great guitar player. What a great string instrument player. Marty Stuart, if you haven't seen him, if you ever get a chance to see him, he has Clarence White's Telecaster guitar with the B-bender, the adapter that changes the tuning and keeps it in. Just Google it. I can't explain it, but he got it from the estate, from the wife of Clarence White after he died, after leaving the Byrds. And this is produced by Mike Campbell of Tom Petty Heartbreakers fame, and it's like an updated version of that psychedelic Byrd, Notorious Byrd Brothers, Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde, and it's just a fabulous record. This came out in 2017, but they haven't really done anything since like this. There's been an EP that emulates the Byrds Mr. Tambourine cover with the fish eye lens. But a fantastic, It's the Music Stupid record. This is something, if you like that description, if you like psychedelic cowboy music, really amazing player. I mean, if you like the Sadies, I've showcased the Sadies out of Canada. If you like them, I mean, Marty Stewart's the real deal. San Francisco had a band in the late 60s, started in 65. They didn't make their first record until 1969, major label record on Epic Records, one record on a major label for Epic, and then they went to Kama Sutra for 2 records, and that's super snaz. The group is the Flamin' Groovies. You probably heard the name. They didn't fit in with the whole San Francisco psychedelic scene. This album is a fun record. It's a bit all over the place. It's a bit of a mess. It brings on a lot of retro classic rock and roll, rockabilly type stuff with there's some ballads and things going on. Roy Loney left after, I think he left in 71, and I worked with Roy at ABC Records in the late 70s, and he would come back and put out records under the name Roy Loney and the Phantom Movers. But the group changed, and they went to Sire in the mid 70s, got produced by Dave Edmunds, and became more of a power pop group and jingly jangly group, a whole different thing. This has a great version of The Girl Can't Help It. That's the title track in that great rock and roll movie with Jane Mansfield, written by Bobby Troup, who was married to, who was a producer and a writer, actor with Julie London. They were married. Julie London and Bobby Troup were married. I think they were on that emergency TV show as actors in the 1970s. There is Rockin' Pneumonia, The Boogie Woogie, Flu. So a lot of originals too, mostly written by Cyril Jordan and Roy Loney. But a fantastic cover. You know, a really interesting record. This is a Dutch import, and it's worth getting if you like that kind of rockabilly sense. But it's a bit of a mess, but it's a wonderful mess, if that makes any sense. I love this record. One of the great American rock and roll bands, still standing for 40 years now or something, is Los Lobos out of East LA, and they've done a series of side projects. Wonderful projects. Latin Playboys is one of my favorites, and this album, self-titled album, Latin Playboys, came out in 1994 on Slash Records, the label that do a lot of new wave, punkish type of stuff, brought on Los Lobos, and they almost didn't fit on the label, but they were so great. Of course, they rose to fame really quickly when they did the soundtrack to La Bamba. All the vocals on that are wonderful. Great versions of the songs in that motion picture. But this is really a cool side project they did with Mitchell Froom, who had produced some of the records. He plays on it. It's got this sort of crunchy sound to it. It's dirge-like. The cover is designed by Tom Rochon at Warner Brothers Records, in collaboration with Louis Perez, who's one of the members of Los Lobos and Latin Playboys. And what a great, simplistic, graphic cover Tom and Louis did on this record. I just love it. David Helgado, of course, co-writes most of the songs with Perez, and it's just a really good, it's swampy, It's really a mix of Latin music, swamp music, country, folk, organic, and it's just a great sound. It reminds me of that sort of that kind of production between Daniel Lanois and T-Bone Burnett, and a really favorite album of mine. It was reissued in 2018 on vinyl. Don't know if it originally came out on vinyl. I had the CD for decades. I think they did 2 records, as I recall. But Latin Playboys, fantastic record. You see this, pick it up. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you like that description. It's all about the description, and it's all about the music. And lastly, a record that I just adore, and this is in a way a groundbreaking record. It was recorded, I think, in 1979 and 1980, and it didn't come out until 81 because of rights issues. And we all know that Brian Eno worked on a series of wonderful records with the Talking Heads, and Brian Eno and David Byrne did this album, and it's called My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. The name they got, they brought the title because they thought it fit. It's the name of a book that was published in 1954, and this is electronic beats, electronic sounds, African music, North African, Arabic, funkiness, a lot of sampling. In fact, it was delayed because of the rights to the sampling, and some of the tracks had to be removed and changed around. And I mean, there's a live exorcist that's happening that's used with these great beats of David Byrne and Brian Eno, electronic beats and montages, and it's really an exciting record. It's a driving record. It's a rhythmic record, and this cover, this is better. The original cover was by Peter Saville, who worked on, the whole Manchester series of records with Joy Division, and then some great records for Factory. Great album titles. In fact, this was the original. And this issue that came out on vinyl just a few years ago, I think beats it. This is such a beautiful cover, and this expands the original. It has some of the original drum tracks, vocal tracks, ambient tracks that they used in this mix and match. And this is recorded in LA, in the East Coast, and in San Francisco at studios. They had off-the-air talk show. Ray Taliaferro, who was a talk show host on talk radio KGO, the night shift guy, they basically sample him, and he goes in a loop on one of these tracks too. But there's just Arabic vocals, and it's pretty much in the vein of Peter Gabriel's Passion, the music he did for the Martin Scorsese film, The Last Temptation of Christ. It fits right in there with that kind of genre of mixing, world music with modern beats and electronic music. And I just think this is a wonderful record. This was on Non-Such, and if you can find this, I don't know if it's available, but this is an amazing record. Obviously, digital recorded, digitally mixed, mashed up, but when you get in something like this, it takes sometimes years to get the rights issues resolved so you can put it out. But a very favorite of mine, and such a gorgeous record cover. How beautiful is this? Anyway, that's this edition, number 8. It's the music, stupid, great friggin' music. Mazzy loves you.